So yes, midday fatigue is a battle that we all face. You get hungry, but you know as soon as you eat, you're going to feel like you can't function for about an hour. Do you stay hungry? Do you go ahead and eat? Is there a good option? Well, I have two clinically proven strategies to help fight midday fatigue. First of all, why does this happen? We get this fatigue from our natural circadian rhythm. And this is a 24-hour cycle that is primarily controlled by light and dark. So we actually have genes that researchers call the clock genes that are thought to help the cells in our body know what time of day it is and what function they're supposed to be doing during that specific time of day. The cycle of the circadian rhythm is made up of cyclic changes in melatonin, body temperature, and cortisol. So your eyes sense the light, the retina sends signals to your brain to stop making melatonin, and the reverse is true at night. And so then at night, your brain releases the melatonin, and this contributes to fatigue at nighttime. This helps us adapt to our environment and helps optimize our energy expenditure. And you can see from this graph that the cortisol level naturally decreases during the day. And this mark at about 12 to 3 is when we feel that fatigue. So now that we know why it happens, what can we do to alter it? It's important to note that the scientific studies are ongoing, and my recommendations are based on successful clinical outcomes. The first tip is a short bout of strenuous physical activity during midday. So about 20 to 25 minutes of strenuous aerobic activity can help with energy throughout the rest of the afternoon. So there are a lot of studies and controversies surrounding exercise. Should you do aerobic exercise? Should you do resistance training? Should you do short bouts? Should you exercise for a long time? Does it increase cortisol? Does it decrease cortisol? Does it increase? Then does it decrease cortisol? These are all questions that are being studied. So the bottom line is there have been a lot of studies regarding exercise and your cortisol level. However, there are multiple individual factors that can affect these studies. For example, the age of the participant, the gender, the cardiometabolic function of the participants in the study, whether the study is lean or obese starting out, the type of exercise, the duration of exercise, and it's hard to measure cortisol acutely like during exercise or right after exercise. However, the bottom line is everybody can agree that exercise is good for you. And we know what happens to your body during stress, such as strenuous aerobic activity. So during acute stress, your body releases epinephrine, or otherwise some people call it adrenaline. And then after a few minutes, it releases cortisol in response to acute stress. And again, in these acute situations, the cortisol helps provide energy to your cells, and it helps provide glucose to your brain, which helps with mental alertness. It increases gluconeogenesis. It does everything to keep glucose in your bloodstream and keep it from going to your cells so you can use your energy and your glucose where you need it the most. And this decreases your insulin and it increases your glucagon. And so glucagon also makes you feel less hungry, which is just an added bonus. Clinical success suggests that a short bout of strenuous aerobic activity can activate the stress response and increase your adrenaline and your cortisol. And if we can change that cortisol going downward on that graph and increasing it a little, it can help provide energy throughout the rest of the day. And generally by strenuous, I mean that if you're carrying on a conversation while you're exercising, you're not going fast enough. The second tip is eating a small noontime meal with low glycemic carbs. The glycemic index is a measure of how quickly your blood sugar rises in response to a certain food, with white bread having one of the highest values on the chart. So when you eat a meal that turns quickly into glucose, your gut releases what we call incretins. And this in return starts what researchers call an exuberant insulin response. So your body only likes your blood glucose to be at a certain level. So when it perceives that you're fixing to have a lot of glucose in your bloodstream, it's going to compensate for that and release a lot of insulin so that the sugar in your bloodstream doesn't get too high. Ultimately, this leads to lower glucose, overproduction of insulin, and even lower glucose than before you ever ate. And this low glucose tells your brain, number one, that you're hungry and you need to eat again. And number two, it tells your body that you need to conserve energy, so it makes you tired. In contrast, foods with a low glycemic index you only secrete as much insulin as you need for that meal. So you get much more stable glucose and insulin levels. So in conclusion, have your lunch and have your afternoon energy. You don't have to choose. Small changes can make a big difference throughout your day.